crisis, probably a decade of, historic GDP levels, probably more wealth created in a single decade than at any time previously. And look what happened. So there's constant evolution in the model. You want to? Yeah. Please.
I just have, first of all, Assalamu alaikum. I just have two small, simple questions. First is, everyone knows that Islamic banking is the fastest growing banking sectors in the UAE. Is the investment in Islamic bank fixed deposits still secured in spite of this crisis?
Yes.
And my second small question is, since the UAE you're saying is still secured, are the UAE, is it investing in the UAE national UAE bonds, government bonds also still secured? Because there was a big craze of this national bonds announced by the government to the semi-government, and there are many Islamic banks which are government funded, government owned. So I just want to know, are they going to be affected by the crisis, or are they still safe?
Well, look, the UAE licensed Islamic banks are covered under the federal decree that came out. The instruments that are federally issued bonds are clearly supported by the credit of the Federation. That's a pretty good credit in today's world.
So they're still about to be kept, no need to withdraw it from the units.
Well, you must make a judgment as to your choice of risk.
Thank you.
Perhaps if I may, let me make a couple of observations, and these are points that people in the audience have raised, and they echo many of the points very validly made by Mohammed Fazl. Some broad observations wearing my hat as a banker on. Firstly, I think remember one of the most important words in the financial dictionary is not leverage or yield. It's something called cash flow. Okay? The first lesson is go and measure your cash flow, because it's your cash flow that dictates what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. Whether you're an individual or you're a business, that's the start point. And the businesses that will survive through this period of difficulty will be those that manage their cash very well, both on the debtor and on the creditor side. Secondly, work within your own comfort zone. Nobody is an expert, and indeed none of my colleagues on the panel would say that we're an expert on everything. We all have a particular experience about an industry or about an activity. And I always think that, you operate within a better set of parameters when you operate in your own area of expertise and focus on those areas of expertise rather than trying to diversify at a moment of time that could be very difficult in the global economy. Thirdly, never forget the tenets of Islam. What Islam says is greed is not good in every shape or form. So whether it's in leverage, people trying to conduct margin trades or people trying to trade away from the real economy, the reality of Islam saw these traits in human beings a long time before John Maynard Keynes saw them. I think he depicted them, and actually Mohammed Fazl, he depicted them very well. And what it shows is that actually, life goes in a circle. At one point in time, his theories were not considered to be particularly fashionable, because then you had liberal theories like Friedman and others who came to pass. But there are some simple home truths of life. The reality is work within your comfort zone, work within a level of leverage that is appropriate. If you are sitting on investments which you're concerned about, then the judgment to make is two things, and the discussion Munir and I were having. In my mind, there is a debate out there in the world today that rages between what I call values and valuations. Values are about our own moral code. So we could talk about the search for yield. Okay? If you look at the financial markets, one of the dislocations in the financial markets is because the markets were actually all driven by yield. So somebody decided one day that in order to get yield, they needed more sophistication. And the more sophisticated markets got, the more dislocated they became from the real economy. And eventually, this all collapsed, which is what we're seeing. So one of the things that the market has to adjust to is lower valuation expectations. And that also probably sits more comfortably with the values that all of us have as, as people. So when you make an investment decision, don't just look at a stock because a stock appears interesting, whatever stock that is. Ask yourself the question, is this a company, is this a set of people, is this an industry, is this a country which I feel comfortable with? I can kind of ascribe and buy into those values. Because once that adjustment takes place, then you will find that there's a convergence between values and valuations. I speculate that in time to come, it'll become clear that there are some companies in the world that attribute a set of values and achieve a consistent set of valuations because of the way in which they conduct business. And the markets will have to adjust in order to make sure that they are not putting extreme pressure on companies to maximize earnings, to deliver growth to shareholders, only to find that those models are not sustainable. I think the final point that I'd make, and it's interesting, this is not about being discriminatory against an asset class or a set of countries. The key issue is, where do you feel comfortable as an individual? Where do you feel that your capital is secure? And actually, for each individual, that's a different set of circumstances. Some people feel very secure in the UAE. Others people feel very secure in Tanzania. That's not to suggest one is better than the other. They're both different. But what you need to do is make a judgment yourself as to what you feel comfortable with. And life's softest pillow is a clear conscience. Yeah? So, why create in your own minds a sense of uncertainty? Because you have the choice. So make your choice and be confident with your choice. And like all storms, this will pass, and the community will gather again in some time to come to talk about, perhaps a different set of challenges we face.
I'll add to that summation. Abbas, you have a question? Sure.
A general one. To diversify the economy, the Dubai government shifted to this one non-oil-based economy, like property economy. Now, I'm asking the experts here, do you see the deflationary trend in the market as far as property is concerned? If so, are we as a community ready to accept the change?
I don't know if we're as a community are ready, but
individually, it's an individual issue.
okay.
You're the speaker.
Look, I think this is a decision for each individual to make, because every individual in the community has their own perception on whether this market, this economy, will sustain, will change. I don't think there is a single way of answering that question. Everybody has their own risk parameters. Everybody has their own thoughts. The one thing I'd observe to you, though, is it's very interesting that, and I travel extensively in the role that I have, oddly enough, everybody wishes they were sitting right here at this moment in time. You go to Asia, they're thinking, you guys in the Middle East actually could probably, do better than we could do. And those guys in Europe definitely don't want to be in Europe. And those in North America are just wishing that, things change. So everybody is relative in their position. But I think those that are here are going to go through a significant change process. And remember, the UAE, is not an old country. This has not been around for that many years. Okay, and what it's achieved